Welcome to the Vets Connection podcast with your host, Scott McLean.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott McLean. My guest today is Catherine Doe. Catherine is the Mental Health Director for Compass Community Center in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. As a matter of fact, that's where we're doing this interview today, and it's a wonderful facility. How are you, Catherine?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Thank you for having me up here.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
It's my pleasure. We met at the VA Wellness Outreach at Palm Beach State College. You did about a 3-minute interview with me. You sat down in that chaos, and you were wonderful. And I said, I got to get her on a full episode because you're a wealth of information.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, so tell us about Compass Community Center and how it came about, how long it's been around, et cetera.
Absolutely. So Compass Community Center, we are the LGBTQ Community Center for Palm Beach County, and our mission is to engage, empower, and enrich the lives of the LGBTQ community and people affected by HIV. So you asked about the origins of Compass. Compass actually started as the Stop AIDS Project during the earlier days of the HIV epidemic, when people were organizing more to provide end-of-life care because that's where we were. We didn't have the treatment that's available today. So what we now know as Compass started as a Stop AIDS Project then, and then eventually morphed into what we now have is the Compass Community Center. When the needs started changing, thank goodness, people started living long, healthy, full lives due to the current treatment that we have for HIV. We also realized we need community support, and especially the LGBTQ community who was part of the Stop AIDS Project, really recognized the need for a broader base of support for all ages, for the community as a whole. So now we continue that mission of serving the LGBTQ plus community and people affected by HIV.
So Compass has been around for
over 35 years.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey and how you became involved with Compass.
Sure. So I actually moved here. I've lived all over the country, grew up in Texas, lived in Massachusetts, California, Alabama, and then here. So when I lived in Alabama, I actually knew about Compass even then. My partner is from this area, and we were, looking at where to move to and decided to move here. And I had heard about Compass just because, my partner told me about it. And I jokingly said, maybe when we move to Florida, Compass will need to hire a therapist and they'll hire me. I was joking, but not joking, but I didn't really think how likely that would be. But lo and behold, when I got here and I went through the hoops that are required to practice in a new state and all that kind of thing, the timing lined up just right, and I was ready to apply for jobs. And I'd been stalking the Compass website, of course, for a long time, seeing when are they going to be hiring? Are they going to be hiring? Will they hire me? So, I applied and I'm here 5 years later and, love it. I call myself the luckiest therapist in Palm Beach County. I love the work that I get to do. I love the clients that I get to work with. I love the community of coworkers that I get to be a part of here. And, one of the reasons I wanted to work here in the first place was, and really why I wanted to become a therapist in the first place, when I was in my 20s and I needed support, I found my own first counselor. And he changed my life, obviously for the better. I really can't imagine what my life would be like. It's so much better. For having known him and worked with him, and he helped me learn so many things that now are kind of core to how I am in the world. So he kind of put me on the trajectory. I had not in college. I had not been interested in psychology. Like, that wasn't really on my radar. I was doing other things, and after that experience, it really shifted my perspective, and I wanted to be able to do that work. I wanted to be able to offer to my communities, that opportunity for healing and growth and kind of set a trajectory, for the lives that we really want. So as I moved around the country and at times needed to find new therapists, 'cause it's a journey,
I know.
We're not usually done,
Oh, I know.
Absolutely. So we complete one piece of work and okay, we'll go back out and do our lives for a while. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the next piece of work. So living in different places, sometimes it was hard to find a therapist who could really kind of understand where I was coming from as a person within the LGBTQ community. And so, sometimes I needed to do some education of my own therapist to just to have enough understanding of where I was coming from. And so I know that it can be a challenge sometimes, and that's not the only reason that it can be, but I know a lot of times folks struggle to find a good match for a therapist because it's hard. There's so many people out there. How do you find the person who's going to be a really good fit for you? So long story short, I really wanted to be able to work with the LGBTQ community. So I had gone back to grad school. That was part of my focus when I chose a school, when I did my studies, when I had independent work that I could do. And I had also focused some, even in undergrad, actually, at the intersection of folks living with HIV, folks who are LGBTQ+, and first-generation immigrants and asylum seekers. So even before I knew I was going to be interested in psychology, I already had a real passion and commitment to working within the community, especially at that intersection. And it's interesting now with my job that ended up being when everything kind of came together like magic, this is exactly where I need to be. Thank you, universe. This is it. I really get to be working with folks. Not everyone is at that overlay of all three lived experiences, but I really focus on working with people living with HIV here under the Ryan White program. And many folks who I work with are also LGBTQ or are also first-generation immigrants, or sometimes all three lived experiences. And so that's been really meaningful for me to be able to kind of carry that, I don't know the word, it's kind of at the core for me, for whatever reason, that's been... Those have been areas of focus for me and community that I really care about and want to serve. And I'm also lucky that within our Compass community and within our mental health program, we also have been able to serve veterans. So if someone, for whatever reason, if they're already active at the VA, sometimes they'll access mental health services there. If they're active with Compass, sometimes they'll seek services with us. So I've been able to work also with veterans. I work with adults here. We also have a youth mental health program, so I'm talking about all adults.
So you found your purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And
not a lot of people get to do that.
It's a real gift for me to be able to come to work every day and really feel rooted and grounded in what I get to do. People say, the best job is when you don't feel like you're working, and I feel
kind of like podcasting.
Exactly. Kind of like podcasting. You find something that brings you fulfillment. It's not easy every day, but podcasting, I'm sure, is not easy every day either. There's challenges in every area that we'll choose, but it's not even a question of is it worth it? That's not the question. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel this is where my contribution is, at least for, this period of my life. And we're always learning and growing and doing new things, but.
So Compass is a 501 designation?
Yes. Yeah. We're a nonprofit 501c3.
Give them money.
Exactly. We are always accepting donations.
I say that I love everybody I interview. I say, give them money. If this is something that you think is good to give money to, give them money. Even if you don't, give them money. Could you tell us some of the key programs and services that are offered by Compass?
Absolutely. So Compass has services for all ages, from youth to elders and everyone in between. And we, like I said before, we focus on serving the LGBTQ plus community and people affected by HIV. And within all of our programs, like we talked about in the mini episode, every one of our programs, veterans are welcome. And I'll highlight a few that might be of particular interest a little bit later. So I'll kind of go through the age range. How about, so for youth, we have a youth program with social support groups as well as mental health services. And we also have a group for parents. So parents of LGBTQ youth. And so they meet twice a month, and the youth groups meet 3 times a week, plus the mental health individual and group therapy. And all of that's free of charge. And the parent group actually formed because parents were hanging out while their youth were in the youth group, and they started talking with each other and, really recognized that they wanted to also have that support for themselves, and share resources, share stories, so that formalized out of parents who wanted to support each other and now can provide a welcome and a place where other parents who are maybe their youth just came out to them and they're like, what do I do? I'm not yet a proud parent like the group title is, but how can I get there? Or what information can I get at least to better understand my child, because I want them to be healthy and safe. So we also have a group for younger trans youth aged 4 to 11 and their families. So they come once a month, and the youth can just play together, basically, and then the parents and family members similarly can have a space to support each other and have questions and answer it or find resources. And then kind of moving up the age group, we have for the 18 to 29-year-olds, which I'm hopeful that some veterans who are listening today might be interested. There's a social support group that meets once a week, and that's a vibrant group. They meet every Thursday, fun activities, different topics for discussion. They have a Discord server that they're on all week long, with each other, and that's for LGBTQ plus folks 18 to 29. We also have support groups running throughout the week. So these are peer-led support groups. So whether they're related to gender identity, there are 3 different groups. One's a gender support group, one's a non-binary support group, one's for a trans-masculine support group. We have a coming out support group. We have 4 different support groups for people living with HIV with different focuses. One's facilitated in Spanish called Grupo Libertad. One is called the multicultural support group. It's for anyone of any background to come and find support together. There's a newly diagnosed support group, also for a kind of like younger age group, even if they're not newly diagnosed, if they want to come and talk to somebody, or newly diagnosed at any age, kind of in the last few years. And that
diagnosed.
Newly diagnosed with HIV.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things to learn about treatment options, about accessing resources, and making the mental adjustment, because there's so much stigma around HIV. There's so much fear that a lot of times has seeped in there to get accurate information and really be able to take in the understanding that HIV is no longer a death sentence. Now people, one pill once a day, people can remain undetectable, which means that in a blood test, the HIV is actually undetectable, and live long, happy, and healthy lives, full lives, doing everything that they had planned to do before. So that can take time and adjustment, and there's a real need for support during that time as well, and getting information and navigating things that people didn't have to navigate before, like disclosure to loved ones or someone that they're dating, how to navigate those kinds of things and deal with the stigma that still exists in society, even though that stigma is really based on misinformation. And I know people who have both type 2 diabetes and HIV, and they say that it's easier to deal with the HIV than the diabetes, because it's a lot more involved. That's not to say that everyone will feel the same way, but it kind of puts it into perspective that like now we can we can lump it under a different umbrella. It's a chronic illness that people will need to take medication for, ongoing, and it's manageable.
What other programs do you have?
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to go back to the support group. We have, so those are the peer support groups specifically related to gender or sexual orientation. And then we also have, we recently partnered with NAMI, the National Association for Mental Illness. They're hosting a group twice a month here that's a LGBTQ plus mental health support group. So for anyone within the LGBTQ plus community who wants to come and talk peer-to-peer, just I'm dealing with this symptom. I think I might have depression, or I have been diagnosed with this or that, and this is what's going on with my life. Anything related to mental health, or maybe someone has never sought therapy and they're like, I just need some support. I'm really going through a hard time. Maybe this will be a good place for me to start. So that's a really exciting partnership, and that's here on site. So it's in a friendly location, familiar location. That's a support group that's recently started. We also recently partnered with Dr. Sam at the VA and Dr. Pete. So we're hosting, or they're hosting here at Compass, some veteran socials. So if that's interesting to anyone listening, please reach out to Dr. Sam, and we hope to see you here at Compass. And then moving up also in age groups. So actually for even younger folks, we have free and confidential HIV testing and education. So if anyone works at or is involved in the community at community organizations and you want to have testing at your site or at your workplace, we can actually come to your site and do HIV testing there, as well as you can come here during our working hours for testing. We also have a partnership with CAN Community Health, which is a health provider. They have a clinic right here on site. So you can get free STI testing, low-cost treatment, or they accept insurance, as well as HIV care. And 10% of their patient slots are dedicated to the LGBTQ plus community. I know people have care already at the VA, but for their friends and loved ones who may be interested in that as well, it's a really great option. We have fabulous providers here. It's a game changer, really, to be able to come into an affirming environment. Coffee Klatch is a group that meets twice a month, Monday mornings, 10 to 12. And that is for, as the facilitators call it, our mature LGBTQ plus community. Allies are welcome, of course. There's coffee and conversation for the first hour, and then a presentation on a different topic. So that's a really fun group, especially for folks who, have their Monday mornings free and want to come and just be, with other people. And I know several veterans who come to that group already, so you won't be the only one. We also, within our mental health program, we offer mental health therapy and in English and Spanish. Services in Spanish are currently available within our Ryan White program only, because that's with me. And then services are provided for the community in English. We have group and individual. One of the groups that we offer is a grief support group, and that's another group where I have directly worked with veterans at Compass. We run that on kind of a rolling basis of several times a year. It's an 8-week group that we offer, and because there's always a need. People are always experiencing loss, whether that's a recent loss or whether that's a loss more in the distant past, and someone's kind of come to a point where they're ready to talk about that with other people in a new way, or it's come up fresh for one reason or another. So that's something to keep on the radar also, is the grief support group. And that's facilitated either by myself or an intern therapist. And I hear from folks coming to the group how helpful it is to hear other people describing their own experience and realizing that they're not alone in that. And, even when the loss may on the surface seem quite different, the felt experience is often so similar. And finding someone they can relate to, or, more people in the group who are speaking their heart even before they've found the words, it's been really powerful.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And it's free.
Yes.
That's a big thing. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping you, right, other than yourself? Do you have any more programs?
We also have a case management program that's also under the Ryan White HIV and AIDS care program on the national level. So we offer here medical and non-medical case management. So folks who are either entering care for the first time or who have been in care for 30 years, it doesn't matter, can get that support here. And there's other providers in the county as well who do that. So helping, coordinate the care, whether that's medical care, access to mental health care, access to glasses, things, a wide variety of needs. We also host some community events throughout the year. So in addition to the, community events that we have here at Compass that I mentioned, we also have things like yoga sesh here at Compass once a month, also free. It's a place where you can come also for your broader wellness. Occasionally we have clothing swaps and just fun things. So keep your eye on, if you want to sign up for our email list that's on our website. That's a good way to stay up to date. But in addition to those kind of ongoing smaller events at the center, we also host Palm Beach Pride every March. So I hope to see everyone who's listening at the next Palm Beach Pride. It's really fun. It's just a celebratory, affirming environment for all ages. Our Pride is unique in that it's people call it the family-friendly Pride. It's just, you see people of all ages there, and, parents feeling comfortable bringing their kids, and an environment where everybody can celebrate together and just be there enjoying good music, enjoying each other, seeing vendors. The VA is often has a table there as well.
That's in March?
Yes, that's in March. We celebrate here in March instead of June, which is not National and International Pride Month, because June is so hot. Why don't we have our outdoor
Florida.
Pride in March? Thank you.
South Florida.
Yes.
People need to remember that.
Exactly.
If you were confused when she said March, I was too, until she said June.
Yes.
And it clicked.
Yeah, so imagine being out there this weekend. Hot. Yeah,
Hot.
and there are other South Florida Prides in June, so we can go to those in June, and we can go to ours in March, and it all works out. We also have the largest display of the Names Memorial Quilt right here at Compass every year in December. So around World AIDS Day, December 1st, we have the quilt on display for 2 weeks. And if folks know of loved ones who have a panel that's been made in their honor, they can get in contact with us, particularly with Dylan Brooks, who's the director of HIV prevention and education, who coordinates the whole event. They can actually request that quilt be present for the display. So every year we put a call out to the community. Do you have any specific panels that you want us to request? And we'll request that quilt to be here as part of our display. And we've had quite a number of community members request panels for friends and loved ones so that they can be present here. And also that's inspired other folks who have lost loved ones to HIV and AIDS in the past to make their own panels and submit them. Last year, there were at least 2 new panels created by Compass community members to send in, and now they are going to be sewn into quilts. Each quilt has 8 panels on it, so they'll be added to the Names Memorial quilt. Starting in this upcoming year, they'll be part of the display. So it is a powerful experience. I really encourage folks, even if you've seen the quilt display in the past, every year it's different, and we are different. Just like we don't step in the same river twice, like we're different every day. Every year when I've had the privilege to be able to be a part of putting it up here, and then when I walk in, when everything's complete, lighting has changed. Every year it hits me differently. Every year something else really gets in there. So I'll never stop going. It's a very powerful experience to honor people over the over the last decades.
It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing you're doing here. I just want to touch on people that are unhoused in the LGBTQ community. We kind of touched on that before we came on. Can you kind of give us some maybe statistics and what you know about that and how it's different?
Yeah. One of the first things I think about when we talk about the experience of homelessness or folks who are unhoused is that, especially when we think about youth who are unhoused, when folks have gone out to better understand what's happening here, the results are that about half of unhoused youth are LGBTQ plus youth. And often the reason is because they've lost the support of their families, and so they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, if you think about being a youth and with nowhere to go, there's a lot of impacts, obviously on the logistical level of not, needing a safe place to sleep, needing access to food, needing to be able to go to school, whether that's high school, whether that's wanting to be able to go to college or access other kinds of resources, having someone for guidance. There's just so many things that change when you are in that position. So unfortunately, that is a more common experience among LGBTQ youth than among straight and cisgender youth, and particularly LGBTQ youth of color, so BIPOC youth. So, there are also luckily protective factors. There's all, when we look at, especially for mental health among LGBTQ youth, it's kind of been shown time and time again, if there is one adult that they know they can really count on, who's really accepting, who they can go to when they need support, whether that's a teacher, a coach, another trusted adult in the community, the difference that makes, it cuts the rate of attempted suicide in half. So adults out there who are listening, who, you may be that person for a youth in your community. And our youth program here, the youth staff, I have no doubt that they are that person for those youth, for many youth. So, and thinking about folks into adulthood as well, if someone doesn't have the safety net to go back to for whatever reason, whether they've lost that due to LGBTQ plus identity or for a different reason, just increases the likelihood that if times get really tough, and right now in South Florida, times are really tough for a lot of people, especially related to housing. If you don't have a backup form of support, it's a lot more likely that you're going to end up unhoused at some point, whether that's living in a car, if you don't have a car, living outside, and now with current legislation coming in, making that illegal to sleep outside in the parks, things like that. Like, just so many layers add up.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced or Compass has faced in getting out to the community or the community coming to you?
Mm-hmm. So some of the biggest challenges we faced, this is a good question. I bet if you ask different people here, you get different answers, and in different departments, you might get different answers. But I would say some of the biggest challenges are related to stigma that continues, related to LGBTQ plus lived experience, or whether it's related to HIV. It's a barrier for people to even walk in the door here, especially if they've come up, surrounded by the belief that there's something wrong with them if they're LGBTQ plus, or that people will be afraid of them if they're living with HIV. It's even harder. I'd say the stigma, that's, again, the stigma in both cases, it's based on misinformation, but it still exists. and still very strong. So I think the stigma related to both of those things is definitely a challenge in terms of people accessing services with us. And with mental health in particular, there's an added layer of stigma, right? About even seeking support at all. Like, what does it mean if I need to go see a therapist? What does it mean about me? Is there something wrong with me? Does it mean I'm weak? All the things that come up. And, I am here to tell you, no, it doesn't mean any of those things. Seeking support is really a sign of strength. And like we have shared already, I've personally benefited, and I've seen so many people just really grow and flourish by seeking support. And we are human beings. We are literally wired to need each other. So there's nothing wrong with needing that level of support. But it is a barrier, especially for folks seeking support for the first time. I have a lot of conversations with people seeking support for the first time. And what does it mean? What does it not mean? What is it? What is therapy? It's a chance to come and be open with someone and get the support that you need. Whatever your goals are, that's our goal.
It takes more strength to be vulnerable than it does to white knuckle it.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
It takes more strength to be vulnerable, to open yourself up and say, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
I just I need help. And the stigma is like a brick wall. Even I had to get over that. But when you do, you'll be better for it, and you'll feel better about it. That's my experience.
Yeah.
So finally, let me ask you, what advice would you give the listeners who may be struggling with either this issue, what we've just talked about, or who want to support the LGBTQ friends and family that they're around?
Great question. In terms of accessing, whether it's mental health support, community support, walking in the door to see what's even available, I would say something very similar, that takes courage and strength, and you have it within you. Just move your feet. Stop thinking about it and move your feet, or pick up the phone, whatever that is, whether that's calling Compass to connect for support, whether that's calling a loved one to connect for some support. Move your feet, pick up the phone. We all need it. If it's for folks who are wanting to support their loved ones who are LGBTQ plus or living with HIV, I would say make yourself visible as a safe person. Because you may not know, there are very likely people in your life who are LGBTQ plus or who are living with HIV, and you don't know it yet, because we all have our own pace, we all have our own process, and being visible to other people. So if you are an ally, or you want to be an ally to these communities, to our communities, make yourself visible as a safe person. Speak up if something's being said, that reinforces those stigmas or judgments. Seek out information for yourself. What does LGBTQ plus mean? We didn't even go over that. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Often the acronym is longer, including LGBTQIA++, so intersex, asexual. Just educate yourself about what is even in the spectrum of LGBTQ plus experience. And remember that these are human experiences. We're all human, and this is under the big umbrella of human experience. So educating yourself and also being aware about what's going on in our state. How is it impacting folks? Staying curious. And just like with any bias that seeps in, we live in a world that is giving us messages all the time. Some of them are positive, some of them are judgmental and negative. And it's our job to recognize, oh, wow, I had that reaction. Where'd that come from? Whether that's related to racism, whether that's related to sexism, whether that's related to transphobia or homophobia, wherever that came from, we are living in a world where those messages will get in and affect us. And so our job now is to recognize, oh, wow, that might not be true. Let me reposition myself. Let me get a little bit more information. Let me just recognize when that happens and think about what might be true instead and realign myself so that my actions are going to be based on love, not on bias that I didn't even choose. Self-awareness, yeah. And then if someone comes to you sharing their identity or sharing their HIV status, being a welcoming, loving person. So if you've already gotten that information, that's going to be a lot easier, right? If you've already made yourself visible as a safe person, it's going to make it easier for that person to share with you. And if you've educated yourself, it's just going to be easier. It can be like, okay, great. Have you heard about Compass?
There you go.
And send them our way. There's services here that are, you know, available to be of support to just about everybody.
So that's a great lead in. How can people get in touch with Compass? Website, phone number.
Yep. So
Give it to us. Give us all of it.
Awesome. Yes, please. So you can find us on our website at Compass, COMPASS, LGBTQ.com. And you'll find information about all of our services and events there. You can also just call us, 561-533-9699. That's the number for all of us. And you can ask to speak with me, Catherine, about mental health services, or my colleague, Nika. Nika processes all the requests for referrals. So even if you're not seeking services directly at Compass, but you want to connect with a therapist in the community who is going to be LGBTQ affirming or affirming for folks living with HIV, you can call us and we'll help you find somebody under your insurance. If you're uninsured, what does that look like? What are some community resources, whether that's here at Compass or elsewhere? Call Nika. She's the one who helps with that.
So, well, again, Catherine, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
I was looking forward to this, actually.
Me too.
I love the facility. I love what you guys are doing. God bless you guys. You're offering something that's it's very special. It's special.
Thank you.
And as I always say to my listeners, we'll give them money.
Please.
Give them money. You can find that on their website.
That's right.
How to give them money. Well, we built another bridge today. If you like this podcast, share it. If you're on a podcast platform and you're listening to this, give us a like, give us 5 stars, give us a comment. We're always open to it. If you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can email me at vetsconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to check out the website, it's www.vetsconnectpodcast.com. And I think that's it. I think we're done.
Thank you so much, Scott. This has been really fun.
Oh, no, this was great. This was great. And, well, as I say at the end of every episode, you will hear me next Monday.
The Vets Connection podcast is produced by Scott McLean at the KOFB studio in Boca Raton, Florida. If you would like to connect with us, visit our website at www.vetsconnectpodcast.com. If you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can email us at vetsconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs immediate help, call 911 Emergency Services or go to the nearest emergency room. Or call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Also, if you are in need of essential community services, call 211. 211 is a free and confidential service that helps people find resources for food, housing, employment, healthcare, mental health and substance abuse resources, legal assistance, counseling, youth programs, household items, and much more.